Good morning. This is the Learn It for 4-2 Pythagorean Theorem. We did models yesterday. Now we're going to do the Pythagorean Theorem. So Pythagorean Theorem only with right triangles. Now, in order to utilize Pythagorean theorem, you either have to be told it's a right triangle, or this marking right here, this little box thing, is the indication that this is a right triangle. And in a right triangle, we have some names that on this L right here, there's an L. These are the legs. Okay? So the legs form the right angle. They're adjacent to the right angle. And then this is the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is always the longest side. It's also opposite from the right angle. So if you were standing at the right angle and you threw something, that's the hypotenuse. If I'm at the right angle and I draw part of a triangle and part of a triangle without picking up my pencil, being attached to the right angle, then I'm a leg. If I have to pick up my pencil to draw, then I'm a hypotenuse. We're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side length of a right triangle. This is finding the hypotenuse without having to draw the squares. So you had squares here yesterday where you had a square here, and you had a square here, and you had a square here. Now we're going to do it without it. So remember, when you had the length of a square, you squared it, and then you had the length of the other square and you squared it, and then that's how this, where it says a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's how that relates. Now a and b are legs, because notice that I come off the right angle and I come off the right angle, and that means I'm the legs, and c is the hypotenuse. You will need to be able to identify the legs and the hypotenuse. So, I'm going to do some problems. Finding the hypotenuse. So, here we go. I'm going to identify my legs. Here's my right angle. One of my legs is 5, one of them is 12, and I have to find the hypotenuse. So to do the math, I'm going to do 5 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. 25 plus 144 equals x squared. 169 equals x squared. To get rid of this x squared, I have to take the square root of both sides. Taking a square root of a square just gives you your variable, and the square root of 169 is 13. If you start noticing it, this 5, 12, 13 triangle shows up a lot. He's a triple. Okay, one of the steps that people forget most is when they get down here, they forget to do the square root. So I actually do an alternate formula, and I square it at the very beginning, and I get 5 squared plus 12 squared, which is 25 plus 144, which is the square root of 169, and I still get 13. Okay, so now we're going to go to do this one. So again, we have a right triangle, and I can turn them and I can crooked them and I can put them sideways. So here's my right angle. I have a leg. I actually don't know my other leg, and so I'm going to put an X there for right now, and then my hypotenuse is 15. So on these two types, on the Pythagorean theorem, you are either going to be given 2 legs, or you're going to be given a leg and a hypotenuse. So you can do it a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and you can put an X here and solve, or sometimes what students in the past have done is if you have two legs, you're adding to get your hypotenuse. If you have a hypotenuse, you have your hypotenuse and you have to subtract to get the other leg. So this is why this formula is written a different way, and it's even written a different way here because it is the shorter way. So here I do 9 squared plus x squared equals 15 squared. I have 81 plus x squared equals 225. This is why it's so important for you to memorize your perfect squares. Subtract 81 from each side. I get x squared equals 144. I take the square root of both sides. That's how I get an x squared to an x. And then I get x equals 12. When I do it the shorter way, I'm still going to land at the same place. Instead of taking the square root at the very last, I put it at the beginning and then take it about right here. My hypotenuse is 15 squared minus my leg is 9 squared. That's 225 minus 81. That's the square root of 144, which is 12. You will notice that you have a skill builder. That is just practicing the math to make sure that you can get the right answers on your math. That is the learn it part. Next video is the practice, where I'm going to do a whole bunch of problems and we're going to work through the problems and show you.